Hey everybody, today we're going to go over groundhog versus Chinese. Obviously it's Chinese and Chinese. I'm not going to debate that 1 second, but it is a difference. And here's why. When you build in any manufacturing, you can build it as light or heavy duty as you want. And if you've never noticed, some models in certain names, like Kubota B3350s are probably one of the worst ones they ever made, but because it's Kubota, you don't hear about that often. Until you specifically research that machine, you don't hear about it often. The same with an E-Series and a John Deere, or a John Deere 110 where they break in half, or a New Holland TC29 and TC33 where the housings and they break in half. So until you research it, you have no idea. In our brand, because we're a starting brand, everybody hears everything, everybody criticizes everything, and we expect that. I mean, we're not idiots, but we want to actually show you. So I bought a Chinese one, and I even bought a better one because I wanted to be fair. I didn't want to call somebody and say, make it with the cheapest of everything. I said, send me your machine, okay? So this is what we've got. And I wanted to show, like, this is close to our BH20Ds and our ZH20Ds. This is not a counterweight. Although it looks like it, as you start to walk back, that is just tin. On ours, it is a counterweight that goes from 7/8 to 1 3/8 inches. It wraps around the corners. It weighs a couple 100 pounds. And it's cast iron. That's well done. Our fittings are done much nicer. That's the gate on this one. The gate on this one, I don't know if I'm even going to get to open it if I get it closed. That's why they have this. So this came like this, just to show you. This came like this, and I know it's to actually take a pry bar in there and get it off the latch. Okay, so I actually went very good because last time it took me 5 minutes. But I wanted to show you guys, you know, again, apples to apples, what you're buying and if you're saving money. So because you don't know which companies do which, you know, simple stuff like a 2-post canopy compared to a 4-post, even the width of the canopy. So this is 42 millimeters. That one's 48 millimeters. Okay. The cylinders. So the cylinders, we talk about those all the time. The cylinders on these, lift cylinder. Camera guy, come up here and show it's a 30 millimeter lift cylinder. Okay. Now we come into a GroundHog, which has a protector on. It's a 32 millimeter. Okay. Almost 10% more. And then our booms, the mounting plates, the diverters. So this is a shut-off diverter, which we had a few models that they did that on, which was stupid because essentially that just is it's a shut-off. So a 3-port 2-way, we call them sometimes a 3-way just because people get confused because they have 3 holes in them. But it's technically a 2-way port is the one we like to do just because like this one's even done wrong. So we've actually had to order the ones, but we're going to get it right. That's the difference. Again, this is how they run theirs. When you look at the thickness of these thumb plates, plus you can only put a mechanical thumb in there because it takes the piece of steel that comes out and hooks it. No double plating in here. Square hex, no, like some of these don't have grease pins. They just have bolts, okay? So that one only has a bolt, that one only has a bolt. So this is a grease circ up here, but the problem is that valley is only on that exact spot. So the cylinder, once it pushes one way, it probably won't push the other. So it goes path least resistance. I've done many of them. The valley on the inside of those vanes always just drives it one way, so you never get grease on the other side. The buckets even, I mean, the buckets, if you look at how these are done and the curl linkages, so our curl linkage, I have my camera guy come up here, this is just a piece of flat steel, and I think these are only a couple millimeters, so 8 millimeters, and these ones have a piece of cast put onto them, just a little bit more reinforcement, a little bit bigger ears. Just that kind of stuff that makes a difference from one to the other. So when you start looking at, okay, it's got a little bit bigger ears, it's got the slots, it's got the grease circs, it's got 2 millimeters here and 4 millimeters there. The cylinders on these ones, so the piping has an extra layer on it compared to these ones, which is just straight to a thinner line. And that's the kind of stuff that we try to show you guys is what makes us different. The other one is the chassis, which I think is one of the biggest ones in my opinion. So when you come down here to the chassis and back to this mount of double mounting and stuff, having some extra steel in here. So camera guy, step back a little bit. You're going to see this plate. double plated. You're going to see this one's double plated, and then you're going to see this one's double plated. When you come into a Chinese, again, I just ordered a Chinese machine. That's all I asked for. They sent me their machine. This one are just single steel, nice and flat. And again, if it's nice and thick steel, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you go and look at that Bobcat and stuff, you know, it depends on which machine for which application, but ours is all done like this. The chassis. So tube steel chassis on our machines with, I think these are like 11 or 12 millimeters thick. And then on these ones, they're about the same. However, the blade is very well done. Actually, I worked with this company in the past, and we worked on the blades for they still just do for the curl or the edge protection, a little piece of plate, but their gussets are well done. But the chassis is still like this, which is why we didn't keep using them. It is a piece of flat steel, all right? And then it sits on a piece of flat steel. So, and then it's capped by a piece of flat steel. So that's all it does. I'm not saying that can't be strong. I'm just saying tube steel has a higher strength axis than a piece of flat steel that you're covering that whole thing with a piece of flat steel. So that piece of flat steel comes around, it caps with flat steel. So that's what your rigidity is. But when you're using a 3/16 flat steel and you're trying to dig out a 6,000-pound stump, and you know, we're all hard on these things. Everybody that gets on one of these, I constantly get that call of, Nick, I was barely using it and I did this or this or this. You have the bolts or the pins or the lines or whatever. And that's fine. But watch my step. We all know we use these to their full capability. Now, using them to their full capability, we're going to hurt them. That's just what it is. So I don't need you to tell me you were barely doing anything. You were beating the crap out of it. I do the same thing. So knowing that we're going to beat the crap out of it, you want to have as strong of made a machine humanly possible. So that's where I think that we do a better job. The companies, we hound on them for a little better fitment. So when you look at the fitment of this one, even I unlocked the hydraulic tank. So here's the hydraulic tank on this. It's recessed under the steel. So you can barely get in there. You can get in there, but you can barely get in there. And this tank was just removed. That was used to sit in there. The eye still lines up, but that's about it. To put fuel in this bugger, it's like that BH14G Pro I'm not a huge fan of. I like them as far as the operations, but the layout, this is the worst part of it. You got to pop this, and then your cap, again, isn't centered. So fitment, I'm just putting the panels where they belong. And stuff like that. So with ours, I think that the fitment is usually better. And I'm not saying they all come better, but we try to tweak them and make sure they're straighter, nicer, better laid out. Yeah, these ones have steel lines on them. Those have rubbers. We have some with rubbers. 4-post canopy, 2-post canopies. There's just a lot back and forth. So I wanted to finally go over video. People call me and say, Nick, why would I buy from you and not just buy from a straight, say, $1,000? You can do that. You can buy straight, say, $1,000. We have parts in that building. We have parts in that building, and we have shelves of parts of this building. There's a difference between having shelves of parts here in the United States and talking to someone hoping they send you something from China, and you're going to break something eventually. A lot of this stuff can be secondhand sourced. I'm not going to deny that one bit. You can Google most of it. As long as that company doesn't use JCT, don't use British metric, don't use some weird stuff, you're good. But that's the problem. Again, you don't know if they're using British metric at a weird taper thread. These ones here are all M14, M16, M18, M20s. So there's only one weird fitting, which goes to the attachment, which we tell you it's a G38. So that's about the only one that goes to an attachment. Again, all the ones on the machines are your standard 14s to 16s. So just a big difference from one to the other. That's a whole lot of information. I know it drug on. Not my best one as far as woohoo, but I wanted to get some information out there. I don't blame anybody for wanting to save money, but till you do, let's say a machine's $5,000 on Alibaba. Let's just go there. We'll go $5,000 for the Alibaba. The tariff is roughly 30%. Right there is $1,500. Then you got the ISF filing, the surety bond. If you don't have a port and any kind of way to bring it here, you have the vanning, sea freight, land freight. You have the port fees because they're shipping that thing as cheap as they can to you. That's what they do. They tell you, oh, Mr. So-and-so, we can get you that thing for $800 delivered. And once upon a time, not long ago, it was $32,000 for a container, and shipping was crazy. Now it has come down some, which is why our prices are coming down. We've actually been adjusting them, which is great. I love having the ability to offer that, but it's going to go back up and stuff's going to happen again. So they don't cover port fees, though. So say your machine sits there for 12 days past the LFD. The LFD's last free day. If it does, beyond your control, customs pulls it. Now you're paying for the customs inspection. Plus, you're paying every day that machine sits there past the LFD, which you can't move it because the customs inspection isn't done. Customs isn't going to tell you why it's not done. They're just going to tell you it's a customs hold. And that can last up to 30 days. Those fees alone can get up to $50,000 because they can hold your machine up to 30 days and charge you up to $2,000. Usually it's $1,500 a day, depending on the size of the machine. So if it goes right, you might save money. But then you still don't know who you're working with. So I'm not going to deny one bit. We work with China. Absolutely do. We work with Japan, South Korea, China, the same as any other brand of any other place. If you like Kubota, right there's a Kubota, okay? If you like Briggs & Stratton, right there is a Briggs & Stratton. If you like an Eaton and a Parker, right there is an Eaton and a Parker. So at that point, what is the difference? Besides some minor things here and there, I just wanted to show everybody the cheaper option, show you guys another option as far as equipment, and show you how we compare to the Chinese excavator. I appreciate everybody watching. I appreciate everybody's support. We're going to catch you guys in the next video. If you guys are interested, give us a call, 570-765-9338. You guys have a good day. We'll see you later.